Yes, and it really was. I mean, there were some great performances yesterday. I mean, obviously that was the late game, and Arsenal are absolutely flying.
Yeah.
You know, all the concerns. I think as fans we all think, oh, what could happen after a World Cup? And I said yesterday, I thought they were in great shape as a team. I thought Gabriel Jesus being missing there's a lot of positives about Arsenal players that are ready to play. And you know, why do you give a new kid, Eddie Nketiah, a new contract? Mm-hmm. Because you believe in him. If you think he's, you know, I say kid, he's not now, he's in his early 20s, but he's a player that's been improving. And I think what we saw last year from him in the run into the, you know, trying to get into the Champions League, Nketiah was terrific in that. It wasn't the reason they didn't make it. I think they had carried a number of players through injury. And last night's performance confirmed 13 wins in 15 games.
Yeah, they have been absolutely superb, Arsenal. And you're quite right, because we all weren't sure how teams would react to returning, having had over a month off with, away from football, or competitive football, certainly, for a lot of these players. And yet, like you say, most of the teams have come back, and they've come back with a bang. They've come back hitting the ground running. With Arsenal being the last game as well of Boxing Day, you can have that thing of waiting to get your kind of season once again off to a flying start. And yes, they obviously conceded to West Ham, but wow, did they fight back well. I mean, that third goal in particular with Nketiah, like you mentioned, it was just a beautiful movement and a beautiful goal all round. I thought really summed up Arsenal's night,
and
really.
We had the song "We United," and then we had Wenger in the stadium as well, which was first for him since his time as a manager.
Yeah.
And Mikel Arteta's played a big part in trying to entice Arsene Wenger back to the football club in a positive sense, not to be there as an ex-great manager that achieved a lot at Arsenal, to actually be part of something special in the future. It's good. There's one thing as well now, and I was having this conversation yesterday about Arsenal before the game, and I sort of asked myself the question on, why did Pep Guardiola choose Mikel Arteta? Mm-hmm. You have to ask yourself, why was he the choice? Now, I'd heard a lot about Arteta as a coach before, and talked about him about 5 years ago, about his ability of coaching and improving players, because City had a lot of players that a big part was played by him. And obviously, Pep was very open about his job and his role at City, and believed he would one day become a very good manager. But what we've seen is someone who's excelled in every department and has grown at a football club as a manager as well. Because, like I said, they've had 13 wins, but they've only had one draw and one loss. That's a hell of a return this season. There was no disappointment, no hangover from what happened at the end of last season when they didn't make the Champions League. It was, we'll go again. And they look like a team. I mean, Odegaard in midfield is playing as well as anybody in the Premier League. He's really had a good season. Yes, his performance just typified he's driving this team on with his ability with the ball. Is apart from Kevin De Bruyne, I can't think of anyone who can do as much. Maybe Thiago at Liverpool, you could sort of say can dictate a game, but he's a very special talent.
It's the consistency, isn't it, that we're seeing from Odegaard, which is incredible. It's
top level performances, and when he's needed, and the team are 1-0 behind, and he can find a pass, he can do it regularly.
Yeah. So massive credit to Arsenal then, kicking off their restart to this Premier League. But what about Newcastle as well, Cass? That game at the King Power I thought was going to be fascinating to see how Leicester had finished the first part of the season really strongly, considering the start that they had made to this season. So I really thought it was going to be an evenly matched side, but it did not go that way at all. Newcastle just kicking on from where they left off before the World Cup break, up to second now. That could, of course, change because Manchester City still yet to play their sort of Boxing Day fixture, if you like. But again, Newcastle just not letting up, still being the Newcastle we've seen this season, which are just relentless. Yeah,
and conceded the least goals in the Premier League, which is an achievement in itself. I know we all know what they've done and Eddie Howe's done in changing the team. Watching Miguel Almiron, and I just talked about Odegaard. I mean, Almiron is just on fire. His goal was such a great finish. He gets it on the right wing, he comes inside, he lays it off, he carries on his run, he receives it, great setup, great touch, picks his spot. Absolutely brimming with confidence, Miguel Almiron. That's a player, I say, just on top of his game. And that's a lovely place to be. You only have it a few times in your career where you're playing your best football. And when you are, you feel like you're capable of anything. And he's certainly in that mindset this season. He's been terrific.
There are so many results for us to reflect upon. I mean, you can also bring up the fact that Southampton, unfortunately for them, they've plunged to the bottom of the table after their defeat at home to Brighton, also coupled with Wolves' late win at Everton, which has piled the pressure cast once again on Frank Lampard.
Yes, and surprising, that getting a 1-0 lead from a set piece, they were two teams that were just scrapping. Just scrapping away at each other. And once it went to 1-1, it looked like the only outcome was going to be a draw. And then the final few minutes of the game, Everton are getting the ball, move it around at the back, play, really going nowhere. And the Evertonians want them to get the ball forward. The moment they got the ball forward, they then overcommitted and then got countered and ended up 4 against 2. Wolves, I said yesterday now with Jamie O'Hara, we was talking, I said, to me it's an easier solution to a team that don't get goals. Just get bodies in the box. And when they get their winner, they got 4. And the fullback, Ant-Nouri, is the one who gets the goal. Because you've committed more bodies forward, and that can get you chances to get your goals.
Well, those who've been getting in touch already, so thank you very much. Crispy, 50 years, being an Everton fan. He's already calling for Lampard out this week. Rooney in long term. That's what Crispy is suggesting. Because at the moment, you're saying lump on relegation. It is on the cards. Oh, dear. Everton fans, they're not happy this morning. Still outside the bottom 3, despite that defeat, but it's just a point that keeps you out of it. And because of Wolves' win, it moves them up to 18th. So they're the team hotly in pursuit with Everton, as I say, with Julian Lopetegui winning his first Premier League game in charge of Wolves.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.